The purpose of this meeting is to not only answer some of your questions. So Jenny, if you could please, as usual, look for the text messages and chat box. All right. All right. So first thing I want to do is I want to show you how I go ahead and I start planning everything out, because for LIS 203, you're going to do almost the same assignment for your metadata as the museum informatics students are. The thing that's going to be different is that you're actually posting your assignments to the DLIS, or not DLIS, to the Hidden Heritage Collection blog that I've paid for and maintained for a number of years. So my computer's saying that you can now see this Word document online. Okay, very good. I appreciate the thumbs up. All right, so every time I go to update an assignment, I'm always looking at what's going on in the field in terms of how did the data content standards change? Because they do. So for example, this assignment is geared towards LAS 258. It's assessment activity number 5. Now, when we get to LAS 203, it's going to be ASL activity or academic service learning assessment number, whatever, right? But just so you know, in the Google Docs or not, and on the Google form, this I have to still update, right? So I did note changes in the Dublin Core Metadata assignment construction that is going to happen for when you guys do your project or your metadata, because there are a few changes in the metadata construction template that I want you to know. So on February 21st, LAS 258 will have their metadata for your museum object solidified. Now, I did not do the copyright assignment yet for LAS 258. That's coming after we start the virtual museum or the virtual exchange portion of the museum informatics course. At that time, I'm going to ask you to do your copyright assignment. However, LAS 203 has done their copyright assignment or will be doing their copyright assignment. So as soon as you figure out what objects you're going to be working with for LAS 203, your copyright assignment is going to come next, which I'm going to talk about in a minute because I had another student question. So helpful guidelines are found here at the University of North Carolina. I think this is at Chapel Hill. And then there's the Dublin Core example here at this link. So I've already parsed this in terms of this assignment in terms of task, purpose, criteria out on campus, which I'm going to show you in a moment. Now, here is the data elements for Dublin Core. Dublin Core is a data content standard. It's a metadata schema. These are the different data elements: title, subject, description, creator. I want you to find publisher, contributor, date, type, format, identifier, source. All right, it goes on. These are all data elements. Your job is to look at your object in hand. And for many of you, it's going to be a digital object. And you're going to assign the attribute or the description from your object to the appropriate data element. So this column represents your data element, your Dublin Core data element. This column represents their attributes. The attribute meaning, and this is a testable question, how you would describe your object. Describe it how what title do you give your source, right? So for the LAS 258 class, whatever museum object you select, the title is going to come from or be extracted from the museum from which you found your museum object and how you searched that title, right? In other words, how did the museum describe your object? What title did they give it? For LAS 203, the Organization of Information course, this is going to be different. Why? Because you're constructing a Hidden Heritage Collection blog post. You're capturing one object. It'll be digital in form because it's going to be uploaded in digital form. And that means information users are going to find your objects in digital form. Now, when you construct your HHC blog post, what you're doing is that You're giving your blog a title, and your object represents just one part or portion of that blog, right? So the name given to your source is going to match the title of your blog post, not the title of the object that you found. So it's different. Now, when we go over to possible data value standards, my expectation is that you're going to follow my guidelines here. So for LAS 258, I say this should be the title of your museum object provided to you by your museum partner. All right, so that's for 258. For 203, when I redo or reconstruct the same table to fit within the parameters of 203 in your HHC blog post, I'm going to say this should be the title of your Hidden Heritage Collections blog post, right? So that's how that's going to change. Now, it is also my expectation then that you're going to actually do for subject, the topic of the resource. That's the definition given by the Dublin Core Metadata element set, the topic of the resource. This is a link. I provide this text, the Library of Congress subject headings, as a hyperlink in your Canvas assignment. So there are a few things that we have to go over here. When you're providing a subject to any object in your metadata construction, the sure way that you can fail this assignment is to disregard two rules. First of all, if you're applying your metadata to more than one object, that's an automatic fail. It is one metadata description, one table per object. You're capturing here all the different data elements that pertain to one information object. For LAS 258, it is your museum object. For LAS 203, it is your object that you selected, your one object that you selected for your LAS 203 Hidden Heritage Collections blog post construction. The second way that you can fail this assignment and get an automatic 0 is if you do not describe the object in hand. For all of you, you are describing a digital object. Why? Because by default, we're in the online environment. For the museum informatics class, when you construct your museum, what is it called? Your online virtual museum brochure. That brochure, yes, it can be printed out, but it's available to all members that participate in the web environment. In other words, your virtual museum brochure is going to be viewable and consumed by people within the World Wide Web. So it's global. So you're describing your digital object, not the original artifact. And this is particularly the case if you found your object, for whatever purpose or for whatever reason, within the face-to-face environment. So if it's a face-to-face environment, the real brick and mortar environment that you found your museum object at, you're not going to describe that. You're describing the digital object. For LAS 203, you're doing your academic service learning community partner assignments. If you are working face-to-face with a community partner, you are not going to be describing within the context of this assignment your physical object. You're describing the online objects. So the short way of saying everything that I just said is describe object in hand. And your object in hand is your digital object, the one you scanned and made available for this metadata assignment, the one you scanned and made available for the construction of your virtual museum brochure. For LAS 203, you're describing the object that you scanned, took a picture of, or made available for the Hidden Heritage Collection blog, which is found in the online environment. And then the third way that you can go ahead and have an automatic 0 for this assignment is if you do not attribute or apply one attribute per data element. What does that mean? Let's go to subject. So the subject of your resource, first of all, is going to be taken from the Library of Congress subject headings. your subject for your museum object by default will have many different subjects applied to it. In the real world environment, say this is the APA citation manual, right? This is what I'm using because I have to right now, because I owe an editor edits to a book chapter. In the real world, I have my virtual background on. This is going to be hard. In the real world, the only way that this was available to information users in the library on a bookshelf is this one object was put on a shelf and you found it. So the most likely subject applied to this citation manual, the APA citation manual 7th edition, is just that by title, APA 7th edition citation manual. However, if you look at the table of contents, you will find that just by looking at the table of contents, you can describe this object with much more granularity within the online environment. What do I mean by that? That means that you can apply many different subjects to the same resource that you find in the real world. So to increase the granularity of your subject, what you want to do is you want to create another row, dc.subject, add, and this is why I am using the Word document right now. You're going to do a copy. Oh, wait, no, wait, you're going to do an add or insert a row below. And you're going to say, all right, you're going to say, for example, I want to apply 5 different subjects to my one object for this class. So you're going to extend this data element subject by saying dc.subject, and you're going to put that, whatever that subject is. You're going to do the same thing here. I know that subject means the topic of the resource, right? I don't want you to say that. I want you to say, what's the subject of your object? And you're going to put it there. That means you're only applying one attribute per data element. So if you want to say, okay, I want to describe this subject as archaeology and Minoa artwork and I don't know, 1400 BC. You're going to extend this one data element to explain all of that. This is different from explaining or creating subjects within the catalog within the library, because we're talking about the difference between pre-coordinated and post-coordinated indexing. When you describe an object within the online environment, you want to use post-coordinated descriptions, meaning that you want the information user to be able to combine the different subjects together so that they have an increased likelihood to find your object on the web, to find what they're looking for. If you were to say history, boats, Greek, this is an example of pre-coordinated indexing, which is a big no-no within the online environment. I say it's a big no-no because you want your information user to be able to separate all of these different data, all of these attributes for this data element. It's as simple as you trying to find a car in Google, right? Say I'm looking for a red 2-door Dodge Ram, not 4-door. What I just did was, if I did a Google's automatically saying red and 2 and door and what did I say? Whatever truck title I said, a Ram, not 4-door, right? So by default, with Boolean logic, Google automatically puts separators in between the search terms. If you were to describe red truck Dodge, Ram, all in one, all as one attribute like this for subject. This is, to me, you not understanding that you need to use post-coordinated terminology, which is coming up a little bit later in the semester for LAS 203, and that within the online environment, if you were to use this search term, I'm going to read this as a pre-coordinated search term, which means your information user will have to come up with this exact order and this exact spelling of this search parameter for this subject, for this data element subject, to be able to find this exact object within the online environment. So that is why within Dublin Core and when cataloging within the online environment, we use post-coordinated indexing, which means we increase the granularity of our terms, our attributes that we apply to each data element, so that the information user can do a separate search for the color red, separate search for the word truck, and a separate search for Ram, right? So that if they want to find, for example, a green truck, Dodge, Ram, not red, they can do that, right? So that's the whole purpose of pre and post coordinated search terms when applying to your object. So let me go. Are there any questions on that?
I know that Alphonse had a question.
All right, what is it?
Well, could you do you have the metadata table open?
Oh yeah, let me go. You want me to go back to the Word document?
Sure, yeah, because it's my question is about the metadata assignment.
Okay.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying, like attribute instructions, that's where we'll put the information of our object. And and to be clear, you said for 258 where this is the information for the image of the object, not the object itself.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, because like I went to my museum and took a picture of it. I didn't get it off of like their website. I went and took it.
So then, question, who owns that image?
Well, I took the picture, so me.
Very good. So you own the image. Why? Because you took the photograph on a different day than the original object was made, right? So you've increased, or there's another layer of data there. So you took a picture of an object that had a specific author that was made on or created on a specific day in a specific geographic location, and it was made from something other than pixels, right? Whatever your object was made of. What is your object made of?
The object itself, marble.
Yep. All right. So you took the picture, which means you are now the author. Your date on when that image was taken was that specific date, and then it was published. Excuse me. It was made available and published by you, but you're not the. And then you are the creator of that object, right? So I say here, an entity primarily responsible for making the resource. The creator, keep the creator as the person that made the original object. You are the publisher. You're the entity for making that resource available. The contributor, you are responsible for, I'm not going to get complicated. with this. Put for the Library of Congress authority file, then for your object, see if you can find that original resource for your marble object. Now, later on, if you go ahead and you decide to take, I don't know, like data preservation and access or something like that,
Yeah.
you can increase the granularity of your descriptions by saying, by extending these data elements. So you could say, like you can add another data element and say, dc.date.original, and then dc.date.digital, and separate the data elements like that. But you don't have to, I don't want to complicate it for you, right? So just make sure that you are the one responsible for making your object available, because you are.
Okay, and with what you said with contributor, like I did also take a picture of like the panel thing with like the object information, and like who the person who probably donated that item would be on that list. So would that person be the contributor, the person who donated it?
Right, but you want to make sure that if there's more than one contributor, that you increase the granularity of this data element by saying insert row below, and then put another dc.contributor, because you know what you could do? You could extend that data element to describe the Staten Island Museum, right? Because they made that, they're an organization that made that marble statue or bust available to you. Okay, does that help?
Yes, I think that does. And now just a last question. When we're filling out the information, what exactly do we add anything to the third column, the possible data value standards?
No. All right, let me explain that a little bit more. What you're doing here is these are the rules and standards that you use for following for applying attributes to this column, which is why I want to go to Canvas in a second. But take language, for example. This is an ISO standard 6339. It's International Organization Standardization. So the S and the O are backwards, right? ISO, International Organization Standard 639, governs globally, and it's globally the format of the language. What's another? For internet media types. This is a resource that's hyperlinked on the web, where when you're describing the physical medium or dimensions of the resource, that is governed by globally by the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C. DCM, so these are all links here. So my expectation is that when you submit your assignment, you're going to delete this column, so that you only have two columns. It's Dublin Core data element, and then your attribute applied to the entity.
Okay, so when we're doing, say, description, for example, we just filling in the information. We don't have to put anything for that third column.
That can be, it can be free text. I give this column right here are the instructions I want you to follow. I'm trying to help you follow the instructions on how to apply attributes to each data element. The data element,
okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure, like, when we submit this, like, some of the boxes, in particular, the third column, are going to be left blank.
No, you're not getting that. That doesn't sound right.
Well,
These are the possible data value standards. The values are the words that we use to describe things. So when I say standard, possible data value standards, I want you to use the published standards here to figure out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's a little bit of clarity might be added when I go to the actual assignment. So let me just stop sharing and let me show you what I posted in Canvas, because they're all hyperlinked. And so that might be able to help you in terms of what I need you to do in terms of, it might offer clarity. So let me go to the Dublin Core Metadata assignment. And let me go back and share my screen. So these are all really good questions that you're asking. And this is why I was kind of upset with myself that I didn't share the hey, we're having a meeting today, because I really wanted to go over this with you guys. All right, so here's my Canvas webpage. So when you go into the assignment, here's Canvas. This is for the course. This is the guidelines or the instructions. It's just like making a cake that you follow when you're doing your Dublin Core. So anytime you have a metadata schema, it's a standard that you follow. It's just, you just don't put any attributes for each data element into your spreadsheet, whether it's Excel or a table, all willy-nilly, right? You've got to actually follow what the guidelines are. So here's title, label, title, element description, the name given to the resource. So if you go to your assignment template that I just showed you for the Word document, it's exactly the same thing. So I said for title, the name given to the resource. Gee, where did I get that? It's from the actual Dublin Core guidelines, the instruction manual. Subject and keywords, element description meaning what are the guidelines for following that I need to follow when applying this attribute to this particular data element called subject. All right, that's all that means. So then I have to stop sharing because my share screen, my share button's in the way. So when I go back to the assignment, let me share again. Share screen, boom, share. All right, so what I'm doing then is when I scroll down, here's the table. Here's the Dublin Core data element. Here's the attribute instructions. Here are the possible data value standards. This is me helping you right here. These are my words. I'm trying to help you. This is for a specific, though, for LAS 258. I don't want to see this column when you turn in your assignment on the possible data value standards. I want you to get rid of that column because I'm trying to guide you based upon these resources out here. I didn't make any of the stuff up. It's all from here, but I'm trying to guide you because this is a lot in terms of how to create the assignment. So when you go for the topic of the resource for subject, you're going to try to find terms that are already used in LCSH, because why? These are the authoritative terms that you want to use because there's an increased propensity to allow an information user to find your object because these terms are already used. These are published terms that are already used. So this is one example. Let me go to, how can I get rid of this? All right, let me stop sharing and let me go to another example because my screen keeps getting in the way. My tab, my drop down tab that says, oh, you're sharing your screen. It keeps getting in the way. Let me go to an ISO standard. All right, let me share. Let me go to another ISO. Yep, share. So the W3 here, the W3C is World Wide Web Consortium. Date is here. So when you click on date, the World Wide Web said, the consortium said, this is how you're going to input date. Formats. So if you only have a year, this is the year. If you have the year and the month, you're going to put in 1997-07. If you have a complete date, it's going to be a 4-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit date, formatted just like this, okay? For LAS 203, by default, the Hidden Heritage Collection blog We'll add the hours and the minutes. I don't care about that. I want to know that you're able to look up an ISO standard to say, okay, here's what the World Wide Web Consortium said that my date has to look up or look like. And it even defines it for you here. It's a 4-digit year, 2-digit month, and they tell you how to go ahead and input your dates for your assignment. So my expectation when I see your assignments is that I'm going to be able to hit on your subjects and go to the Library of Congress subject headings, and I'm going to be able to put your search terms in there that you put for subject and find them. All right, so that's my expectation. So that's just one example of a date. Let's go to language, because why? I wanted to show you language because standards never remain the same. That is what I'm finding. Standards change based upon the needs of their community, their user communities. So an example of that, a good example of that is language. So language is an ISO 639 metadata standard. And these are updated. It seems like that I can give this assignment one day and the standard will change like 2 minutes later sometimes. That's how much this happens. So let me just show you one more thing. Share screen. Language. So if I click on, so all of these, this ISO 639, oops, once again, is another possible data value standard that I would like you to use for date. So I'm going to click on the hyperlink because I take you right to the date and time. Crap, I just said language. Sorry. Let me try this again. Let me go to language. All right, share screen. Language. Because at one time it used to be a 2-digit code, and then it was a 3-digit code. So codes for representing names and languages, ISO 639.2. So we're on the registration authority page. Here's the notes for the terminology. So if you're looking for the English, and I don't want to assume what language you guys are coming from, but please, if you could try to use English. And the virtual exchange class with the German students we are working with, by default, English needs to be spoken because they're practicing their English. So let me just say that. So say you want to go to the name of the language, you're going to go ahead and you're going to scroll down alphabetically until you find your language, right? So if I go down to, let's see if I can find it. Baroque, Persian, French. French is a 2-digit, A, B, C, D, E. English, EN, lowercase. Here it is in 3-digit form, ENG. So what do these mean? Right here, EN and ENG. If you go right back up here, see how this is 639-2 code and this is 639-1. Well, at first, years ago, ISO said, all right, let's just use the 2-digit codes, right? And so like when I was a digital librarian at the University of South Carolina, we're using the 2-digit codes because at the time, that's what the standard was. Then the World Wide Web Consortium updated and said, well, wait a minute, we're getting confused with languages. We need to grow out one more letter or a placeholder. So now let's use 3-digit codes. However, you've got all these metadata records now that have been compiled using 2-digit codes instead of 3. So they kept the 2-digit code and said, okay, for a matter of people being able to update their records within the online environment from MARC to Dublin Core, for example, we're going to go ahead and keep the 2-digit code, but just know that the more updated ISO form is a 3-digit code. So anytime you see a 2-digit code, you want to update that into the 3-digit code using the ISO 639-2 code because it's newer. So use your 3-digit codes for whatever language now that you're translating this into. For the Center for Migration Studies, the academic service learning community partner that I work with, we had to do all of this with their metadata for JSTOR, right? So the application profile originally said use the 2-digit code. This was like 2 or 3 summers ago. And then I found out with looking at the codes, because I had to write the instruction manual for each data element in terms of how do you describe or what are the instructions for language. I found out by accident, oh my gosh, the W3C went ahead and they updated the 639 standard for language. So now if I have a document in Italian, I have to switch that from the 2-digit Italian code, right, to using a 3-digit. I have not gone in though yet and worked with the other archival collections within the Center for Migration Studies to update all the metadata from the 2-digit, 3-digit code. I know I'm going to have to do that at some point in time, but I just haven't gotten there yet, and I'm not going to get there for a while. So clear as mud. Are there questions on any of this? Yes, sir.
I'm not seeing it. Oh, there we go.
I saw a hand go up.
Sorry, one last question. Should we include a picture of our object with the metadata assignment?
That would be most helpful. Well, crap, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, go ahead and put a JPEG. I'll go ahead and I'll do it right now. Go ahead and put a JPEG at the top. So you're here. Let me just, all right. So at the top of the page, and then below it, go ahead and put your metadata. So I will go ahead and share my screen one more time. And share screen. What did I say in the criteria? Let's see. Purpose, task. All right, task. All right, so if I edit this, none of you have done it yet. So yeah, I didn't. All right. So let me start with, please remember to put your name on your paper. Please remember to put your name at the top of your Word document that you submit for your assignment. Next, please include, make sure it's a JPEG, JPEG, or it's JPG of the object you are describing at the top of your Word document. Then using the table below as your guide, provide the appropriate, how do I spell appropriate? I swear I have a problem with my spelling right now. Oops. I'm missing an I in there somewhere. Appropriate.
PRI.
PRI. Thanks. APP appropriate. That's still not right. I'm having a problem with
APPROPRIAT.
Thanks. Appropriate attribute for each data element. Does that make sense to everybody then? All right. Blah, blah, blah. So this is an assignment worth 10 points. It's a file upload. I'm not going to restrict the file upload. That's my test to say, hey, did everybody read this assignment and upload the Word document as necessary? So it's due February 22nd by noon, and it's available from Feb 9 to Feb 25. You people are in my save. All right. So I think that's all for right now in terms of the metadata, but just really quick on copyright. When you guys do your copyright assignment, if you find something in the public domain, hold on. Oh, thank you. Sorry. I will make sure I'm asking you to do a copyright assignment. If your object is in the public domain and it specifically states on your object below it or somewhere that this object is available for educational purposes and is located within the public domain, you don't need a signature from anybody when, when doing your assignment. That is your signature. That blurb, I want you to capture that blurb. If your object's in the public domain and you say, hey, this is the website, this is my object, this is my evidence for the object being in the public domain, that's what you capture. Why? So you're not sued for like $25,000 for usurping somebody else's objects, right? For taking on somebody else's work, or for applying or attributing credit to somebody else's work. You go to jail, you get fined for that kind of stuff. So if your object's in the public domain, please do not think that you've got to go out and get additional permission. If it's in the public domain, it's going to say right there, that's what I want evidence of. So go ahead, follow the nice little template that I provided, especially within LAS 203 for your copyright permission assignment. Do I have it here? I have a presentation, I have a few student examples, and here's a copyright student template. I don't know if you guys can you guys see the sample permission letter on your screen? Very good. So here's an example permission letter, right? So use the letterhead of whatever institution you found your object from, the date and the name and the address of your institution. If your object's in the public domain, I don't need dear so-and-so. Just tell me what course you're enrolled in, the object that you would like to use, and provide a full citation and description of the original work. So for LAS 203, I expect to see a citation of that object along with your copyright information. You don't need a signature for anybody, right? But I do want to see then a screenshot of your image and the link where you got the image from. And I want to see a screenshot, because links change, of your evidence for your public domain, right? Because it's going to be right there on the same page, typically. And then that's it. Okay, so I've bemoaned enough and we're way over time, and I apologize, but can I answer any questions, please?
There are none in chat.
All right, I apologize so much for not sending the link out. I don't know what I was thinking. I know I usually send the invite and I need to. I started grading right away and it slipped my mind. So everybody's museum informatics papers should be graded. Everybody should be taking their tests, right, for LAS 203. I will be putting this presentation in museum informatics for the assignment, and I'll put it on the brand new page that I went ahead and I made for everybody's assignments. If you go to the home page and in Canvas, all of these sites are now going to be accessible, or all these video recordings are now accessible through the Zoom Abouts. I didn't know what else to call them. I didn't want to be too fancy, but I wanted to be I wanted the letter or the wording to be short enough so that I could fit it within my page up here without like having to mess with the links too much, because the formatting can be atrocious. So your next Zoom About posting video will be down below. It'll be, maybe I should go the other way with these, but I didn't. But there you go. It'll be under the Zoom Abouts. So I appreciate everybody's time. And anytime anybody doesn't see on Mondays link go out in terms of an invite, please shoot me an email or something, or Jenny an email, because I totally forgot about it. But yes, every Monday, I mean, unless we're on a break like Easter or spring break, we will be having these Zoom about sessions.
Also, if you haven't yet, the way that I found out about the meeting today was through Google Chat. So if you haven't joined Google Chat yet, I highly, highly recommend it because we help each other out. I answer questions.
That's great.
I answer questions all day. I'm always at my it's helpful for me as a GA because sometimes like getting on actual camera or like exchanging emails can be difficult. So the chat, I'm always there. I usually always answer. So I'm kind of like your I stay up pretty late, so I'm almost like your 24-hour helpline. So please send me an email and I will give you instructions and access to that. And yeah, like it's helped out a lot of people, I think. So please join.
Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
So our next chat session or our next online session will be next Monday. Usually if I get questions during the next week, though, in terms of questions like copyrights, metadata, stuff like that, I'll go ahead and make a video and just post the video and send you guys the link. It won't be YouTube. I'll just do a video in Studio and then post that Studio link onto the course page. And I'll make sure that you get the link to the Studio. All these chats or all these sessions though on Mondays at noon, they're done via Zoom. Okay. All right. So, all right. I'm surprised the Zoom session hasn't logged me out yet because I'm using the free service still, and it's been way over 30 minutes. So go me. Okay, I'm going to stop recording, and I promise, with your guys' help, I will remember to send out the invite next Monday.
Don't
everybody
worry,
have a
it's
good.
fine.
Okay, well, over here. All right, sorry about that. I honestly, it slipped my mind. Every Monday at noon. All right, so, all right, you all have a good rest of the day, and thank you for attending, especially on short notice. I appreciate it. All right.
All right,
Right.
bye.
Bye.